Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and I really wasn't going to talk today, but I thought I would do this. I was reading some comments on some previous videos, and those of you who follow me for a long time know that I think the Sphinx in its original form was what we know today as the god Anubis. And when I started researching this, and the Sphinx is a great mystery, and when I started researching this, I thought I would find a lot of the lion symbolism and the Leo correlation of 10,500 BC. And I don't like to have preconceived notions when I start researching something, but that's honestly what I thought I would find. But that's not at all what I found, and I'm just going to give you what I find, the best evidence, no matter who says what about this or that. And a lot of the alternative researchers, Graham Hancock, Brian Forrester, Robert Schock, John Anthony West, this is a theory that they really don't like too much, and it's kind of weird. There's a lot of great evidence here, I think, presented in this book, and this is where I was first introduced to it, this book by Robert Temple. And it seems a lot of popular alternative researchers have a problem with this because I think they really have a problem with Robert Temple for some reason. And too bad that seeps into what theories they accept and don't accept. But I put all that aside and just look at the best evidence. And I don't agree with some of Robert Temple's later work, but this here, this book about the Forgotten Sanctuary of Anubis, the Sphinx mystery, I think he nailed it. And everything I've researched in the meantime tells me that the Sphinx was Anubis. And in this video here, I wrote proof the Sphinx was Anubis, and to me, this was proof. And in this video, I just went over the fact that an ancient pre-dynastic king, unidentified king, gave a dog a special royal burial out in front of the Great Pyramid for the specific reason that he could be buried before the great god Anubis. This was like the final straw in the hat. And after everything I showed you, the symbolism, the alignment, the artwork, the tombs, the erosion, the pause on ancient pictures, everything that told me that the Sphinx was Anubis in its original form, this was just the cherry on top. But I thought this was really interesting when I read this book, and I thought it was a possibility. But in the meantime, I have become thoroughly convinced, and let's let the ancient Egyptians and their ancient texts tell you what the great monument was on the Giza Plateau. Now, this is a website here, and I will leave all these links below. But it talks about the Papyrus of Ani, and it talks about Anubis here. It says, Anubis, master of ceremonies, leads the deceased by his hand to the scales in the hall of Mot. And Anubis was the preeminent god of resurrection. And of course, the Sphinx is aligned to the rising sun on March 21st, the day that signifies resurrection. That alone is great evidence, I believe, that tells me the Sphinx was Anubis. And it says here, it refers to Anubis as the great god. And that's a little flowery for ancient Egyptian text. And a little later in the Papyrus of Ani, it says, before the great god, the Lord of the West. So Anubis was the great god, the Lord of the West. And Anubis has an ancient epithet, and this was his name here, or the epithet, the other name he is known by, and that is Kentiamentu, and that is a very ancient name for Anubis. And this means foremost of the Westerners, because he guarded the entrance to the underworld. And underworld, he also guarded the entrance to the necropolis. And it says he is foremost of the Westerners, the most important of the Westerners. And of course, the Nile was the dividing line of East and West. But he guarded the entrance to the underworld. The pyramid text, it says this in Utterance 2:17. Thoth, hurry, announce to the gods of the West in their spirit, he comes indeed, this Unus, an imperishable spirit, decked like Anubis on the neck, who rules over the western mountain. So the god, the great god, the god of the West, who guarded the necropolis or the underworld, he ruled over the western mountain. And we don't have any mountains on the west side of the Nile, except for one. And here, ancient Anubis guards, just exactly like the ancient text tells it, as Anubis, as the Sphinx. And is there any evidence that tells us from ancient times that Anubis was the great monument or shrine. Well, the pyramid text, Utterance 437, it says this: "And stand up as Anubis, who is on the," and it has a word here, which is interpreted as the shrine. And stand up as Anubis, who was on the shrine. So, in review, the ancient Egyptians tell us that there is a shrine of Anubis who rules over the western mountain, who guards the entrance to the necropolis, and he's foremost of the Westerners, and he is the great god, the Lord of the West. And where was Anubis god? Well, he was the Lord of Rostau, what we know today as the Giza Plateau. The ancient Egyptians don't hint at what this great shrine was in ancient times. They tell us exactly what it was. It was the great god Anubis. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a nice day.